Hello everyone, my name is Skyla Sage. I'm going to go ahead and get started today. My name is Skyla Sage, like I said, and I work here in the marketing department at Stouse. If you're new to webinars, there should be a GoToWebinar panel box with the audio, questions, and handouts in this presentation over on the right side. Make yourself comfortable with this panel box, because throughout the webinar, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them into the question box. I'll answer the questions towards the end. So what's on the agenda for today? I've got a lot of great examples to show you. I've worked up some show and tell style video clips. We're going to focus on things like foil stamping, white ink, chrome from a design perspective, rather than the more traditional ways that you typically see these products. If you're new to Stouse, you may not know, but we print 2.5 million pieces per day. So we see a lot of orders and artwork go through our production facility, which means I had a lot of samples to choose from to build this presentation. I'm also going to share with you some unique sales tools and go over some basic rules of design. My goal today is to ultimately open your minds to fresh ideas on how to use some of our standard stock products in non-traditional ways, to enhance the overall design. We're going to begin with foil stamping. Here's an example of foil stamping on some parking permits. This is one of the most popular traditional uses of foil stamping for security purposes, especially when you're selling parking permits to a school, for example. Without the foil stamping, some young entrepreneur-minded student could photocopy the parking permit and duplicate it for their friends, rather than every student purchasing their own parking permit. In this example, adding foil stamping is a win-win solution. Since you charge more for the foil stamping, you make more money, and then this also ensures that more parking permits are being sold, letting the school make more money. It's a complete win-win situation. But have you ever considered using foil stamping to enhance the design? Check out these business cards, both on clear plastic with foil stamping. They definitely caught my attention in the samples department, and they make a lasting impression. On the right, we have an example of some custom foil stamping for security purposes. If you ever want to add foil stamping for security reasons, it doesn't necessarily have to be our stock stamp, such as a bar or the year, thinking back to those parking permits. You can custom order the foil stamp to be part of the school logo or an element that really enhances the design. In this case, the foil stamp really makes this plastic badge an elite product. It looks really sharp when attendees are wearing this. At Stouse, one of our core products is roll labels. So this first roll label design on the left is typically what we see going through production, where the entire logo is foil stamped on a solid color. So if your customer comes to you and they ask for some labels, with a foil, this is going to typically what pops into your head and is probably what they're envisioning. But that's not the only option. Over here on the right, you have a one color sample as well. It's going to be on the craft paper, but it has a foil stamp that enhances the design. The entire logo isn't foil stamped. Now, I'm not saying that one necessarily is better than the other, but when I saw the craft labels on the right, they definitely caught my eye because it's not a combination that we see often. That's the point I want to make here. When you start thinking about foil stamping, open your mind to other options. These two jobs are essentially priced the exact same, one color with a foil stamp. And when you're ordering roll labels for packaging purposes, especially if they're going to be in sort of a retail store setting, you really want to help your customer's products stand out. Now moving on to white ink. There's a couple of different reasons why you want to add white ink to your decals. One, the white ink improves the ink's opacity on clear materials, and then white ink also adds contrast and readability. This cardinal diagram shows the difference in adding a white halo or stroke around the artwork, on a darker surface. It adds more contrast. Now, adding white isn't always necessary. The application and how the decal is going to be viewed is really going to help you decide if you need to add white or not. Today, though, I want to focus on decals for car windows because, one, this is the most popular use of clear material, and two, window tinting plays such a huge role here. If you say the word window, you may think of clear glass, generally lighter in color. However, cars with tinted windows obviously are going to be a darker color. So you're talking about two completely different colors of glass, acting as the background of your graphic. Now you want to make sure that your decals are going to stand out on all the windows, where they're tinted or not. And so the first thing that we always do is suggest to add white. Now I have a few clips here to show, why to add white ink on clear. First, we have this Westlake lacrosse decal. Now, I don't really know what the final application was for this decal. It could have gone on some helmets or anything white. But if you hold this decal up across on a white background, you'll see that it's easy to read. But the blue is almost unreadable once you place it up against a darker background. If these decals are intended for car windows, I would highly recommend adding a white halo or border around the decals, like this second example over here on the right. The font has a small white halo around the text, which makes it really pop when you see it go up against the black background. It's very legible, and it's going to look very sharp on a tinted car window. Now, a lot of times when we go to suggest adding white to decals, everybody's kind of hesitant. We immediately hear, whoa. We have brand standards. We can't just change our customer's logo. And this happens a lot. Customers are pretty hesitant to do it. So over here, I like to do a little quick mock-up. If you look in the handout section, there should be a JPEG file called car window, and that's going to be of this image right here to the right. I like to use this image a lot because it's generally flat surface. The rear window is really flat surface, and so it makes for easy photoshopping and quick mock-ups. So what I suggest doing is, download this file, then create the layout with both a white halo and one without a halo, and then pop them on the background of this car, just like this. Now, all you have to do now is show your customer this example. So if your customer was Westlake Lacrosse and they were nervous about adding white, they really didn't want to, show them this. The picture speaks for itself. Now, you also just sold a 3-color job. You made more money, and this is how you're going to convince them, showing them these mock-ups. Obviously, it's not an exact illustration of the graphic, but it's going to get the point across. If you ever need help with any of these mock-ups like this, definitely shoot me an email. I can help you work something out. Now we're going to move on to Chrome. My first clip is going to be a very popular combination that we see here, black ink on Chrome. So the thing with Chrome, though, is it reflects its surroundings. Notice when I play this clip that the lettering is very hard to read when the Chrome material is reflecting the camera. But as I tilt the decal towards the light, the lettering is very bright because there's more contrast. The second decal on the right is made of multiple colors, but there's also several things going on with it as well. They're using, on the right, they're going to use Chrome as an accent, whereas on the left, they have the black imprint and all the text is reversed. So it's kind of why it's a little more legible over here. So no matter where I turn it, the text is always readable, is because the text is the ink and there's a lot of contrast between the Chrome and the material, or the Chrome and the ink at all times. And that's just something that I think everyone should keep in mind when they're ordering Chrome. What's the surroundings going to be like? It's got to be readable from all directions and all kinds of lights. Now I have 2 more Chrome examples. Over here, this first one, as I rotate the Chrome, you'll see how it reflects the surroundings again. And this decal does look very nice, but I almost think that it could look a little bit better by adding a stroke. This G is begging for some white ink, to create a little bit of contrast, because once a darker surface is reflecting and that background is such a dark navy, it's hardly readable at all. Now the sample over here on the right, there is a small black stroke around the TJ's heads, like the font. There's another thing that's going on. The background image, this dark green background, is completely opaque, but then the lizard area, you have transparent inks. So the chrome is able to shine through over there. I'm going to play it real quick for you. It's very neat how that reflects with the light. It's almost always readable as well, because there's enough contrast between the lettering and the background. Here's a couple more examples of really good contrast. On the left, we have metallic silver ink on chrome, and this is a very impressive one-color job. When I play this video, it doesn't matter where it's leaning, what's shining off of it. You can always read the word crink. Think about that black on silver decal that we looked at earlier. Essentially, these two items are priced the exact same, but the use of the metallic silver on chrome takes this decal to the next level. If you have a customer that is needing high-end packaging, for example, it doesn't necessarily have to be expensive. This would be perfect for that. This definitely is an effective piece, and that's why I like this sample so much, because one, it just looks cool, and it's a great use of contrast. And you don't see metallic silver ink on chrome very often. On the right, this one is very sharp decal as well. Adding the white makes this a 3-color job, and it just looks really sharp. They have a good contrast between all the colors, all of the strokes, and the white really pops and stands out on chrome. Black, white, and red together on chrome are by far the best combination. Now we're going to move on to transparent inks. Earlier I kind of teased the idea of transparent inks with that lizard. And here's an example of this gear aid. Typically, all ink is opaque by nature, but we offer transparent inks. If you're interested in having inks appear transparent on chrome specifically, the material will shine through, let us know. We can definitely do that. Watch this sample as I rotate it. It makes it look like that orange is metallic itself. It's shiny. It looks like chrome ink. But the black still is opaque. Over here on the right, this Keep Tahoe blue is very sharp as well. There's a thin chrome stroke around the white lettering, which makes the words, I think, pop. You can barely notice it, but it definitely creates a stronger contrast. And again, the dark blue or the darker blue in the background is transparent, whereas this lighter blue is opaque. So as I play this one for you, the entire decal kind of has this chrome shine to it. It's very, very cool. And here's my last example of transparent inks, and this one's going to be on prismatic material. This is a 2-color job where you have opaque black, which is just like the standard black, and then you have a transparent red. And you can kind of see under the word heat where the actual prismatic material is showing through. The transparent ink, allows the material to show through, and you can see, the prismatic nature of the material. This is very unique. Think about, this is a 2-color job, and if this was printed, maybe on just plain white vinyl, solid red, solid black, and maybe white, this one is definitely, much more interesting design. It's a custom die shape. It's custom ink. It's going to look sweet. It's going to be way more effective. So we talked a lot about adding white to both chrome and clear materials to create contrast, but also a very easy way to make sure that your printed products are easier to read is just by choosing the right color scheme. Choose colors that have a high contrast next to each other. There's another file in the handout section called the contrast legibility chart. It's essentially, this slide, but you can download it now or later Save it for your future references. I can also email this to you. The color combinations are labeled from 1 to 14, 1 being the strongest contrast. And that makes sense, right? Look at the black text on the bright yellow background. Think about warning labels and signs. This is what you see. This is what's going to grab people's attention the easiest. But as you kind of go through this, you see a lot of reverse prints. And keep that in mind when you're creating something. It doesn't always have to be, black on white. Keep this chart around, definitely show it to your customers, keep it in your office. Some of you may have already seen this before, but it definitely makes for an interesting tool, especially if they're creating signage or any sort of decals. So earlier I shared a trick for doing mock-ups on clear materials, but white vinyl is definitely our top material, and so I have a quick sales trick for you with this as well. So here we have Ginny's Choice Brewing Company, and the customer is just wanting a one-color bumper sticker. So if your customer comes to you and they tell you this is what you want, our trick is to offer alternatives. Anytime a customer, just wants their logo on a decal, that's all they're thinking. They have their blinders on. It's, something simple, but it's going to take you, 2 to 3 more seconds. Literally, all you have to do is, click around to change the colors, and now you have 2 visuals to take back to them for proofing. So I often suggest showing a reverse imprint because, as we were looking at that color contrast legibility, you see that a lot of the ones with high contrast were the reversed imprint. It also a lot of times makes for a more interesting piece. It's still priced the same. It's a one-color job, but showing your customer 2 layouts has a lot of advantages. One, it ensures that the customer is getting what they want. Sometimes they may not know what they want until they see it. They hadn't thought about doing it reverse or in a different color. But it also helps build a relationship between you and your customer. It's a talking piece, if you will. And your customer is now looking to you as the professional and as a consultant. Instead of you just saying, we'll print whatever you want, so just tell us, give us your logo, and we can print it. And I'm not saying that the customer is always going to pick the new suggested layout, or even that it will look the best, but this takes hardly no time, and it's going to be a great sales tool to help you win future orders. Now here's my last example I'm going to show you. Again, so a customer comes to you and they want some signs. They're thinking maybe green and red text over here on the left. This is what they could have asked for. But showing them 2 layouts, like this one on the right with a reverse print with green on the background, it's going to make, in this case, I do think it looks better. The green background helps the sign pop, and it's going to grab more attention along the side of the road. And that's kind of the last example I have. We're going to move on to questions. I'm going to go ahead and take a peek at the questions if you guys want to jot my contact information down. We do webinars on the 1st Wednesday and the 3rd Wednesday of each month. So if you're new to Stouse and you want to, the first webinar is usually an introduction for our new customers. So if you are new, you can jump on that one. You can go ahead and register on our website or look for invites in your email for the 3rd webinar on the 3rd of the week. I'm also going to be sending everyone a follow-up email with the handouts and then a recording of this presentation. So let's see if we have any questions. Okay, so there's a question about the transparent ink on the Lizard Chrome. So how that specific decal was printed was that it is digitally printed. So we say that our inks are opaque by nature, and they are. Our default is, I'm going to try to scroll back up to the Lizard. And they are. So when there's digital ink, we're going to print white behind it to make it more opaque. So here on this TJ Pets example, there's going to be, we're printing white behind the background, but not behind the lizard. So we can choose when we're digital printing, and I guess when we're screen printing, where the white placement. But when you're talking about screen printing, like those other two examples, the Gear 8 and the Tahoe one, those were screen printed examples, and we have specific transparent inks for that as well. We can do some really neat things also with our digital ink on chrome material, because you can essentially have just any colors. You know, it can be, if you have a multicolor image, you know, our Stouse logo is multicolor and it looks really cool on chrome when the chrome is showing through. I'm gonna look. So for the video clips, if anybody is wanting any of these to show to your customers, I would be more than happy to send you some. I can, I'll send you a copy of the entire presentation, but if you're wanting a specific video clip, just, you know, jot it down in the questions, or you can shoot me an email and I can provide you with that file. I can also provide you with any samples of these materials. You know, we have a huge sample department, and if you're looking for something specific, and you know, you want to show your customer the difference between printing white behind it and not, we can send you samples of each. So we can send you some, you know, where there's no, you know, no white halo, and an example where there is a white halo for you to have just in your office. So if you're submitting art and you're wanting, you can notify where you want the white to back up for transparency reasons. That you can note it in your art file, or you can also note it in your PO. If you're a little nervous, I would recommend a digital proof, and we can make an additional file and show you exactly where the white is printing and kind of show you a visual mock-up of how this is going to look like on the material. The transparent inks are going to be available on any screen printed material. So yes, they're not really going to do much though on a white vinyl, but we print transparent inks on reflective material. I showed you that example of prismatic, and chrome. We also offer brush chrome. And so you can kind of play with all of those different inks and material combinations. All right, I think that is all the questions I'm going to have time for today. If there's additional questions, I will just answer them via email. I'll respond directly back to you. Thank you guys so much for taking your time to listen to me. And again, if you want samples or anything, just let me know. I'm going to jump back to my contact information. Again, my name is Skyla Sage. And thank you so much. Goodbye.